What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Anthony Servino. This is the Faceoff Sports Network. I'm going to give you three wide receivers. I'm trying to leave every single fantasy football draft with. Let's start with Drake London. Drake London, ADP 14.7 for a guy who has never finished better than a wide receiver 42 in fantasy points per game. He's never given us more than 10.5 fantasy points per game in a single season. So why do we love Drake London? Zach Robinson, new offensive coordinator, coming from that Sean McVay coaching tree. Kirk Cousins, coming from Minnesota, we know, big-time stat guy, can support big-time fantasy football wide receivers like, hey, arguably the best guy in the game, Justin Jefferson. And Drake London, let's remember, was a higher draft pick than Justin Jefferson. He has the pedigree. He has the quarterback. He has the offense. And oh, by the way, he has a supporting cast around him, guys like Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney, Bijan Robinson, a top 5 offensive line. This Falcons offense will be a juggernaut this season, and I'm willing to pay up. I'm willing to pay up for Drake London because I believe Drake London will finish as a top 12 fantasy football wide receiver in PPR leagues. Where's the ceiling? We don't know. If everything goes right with this offense, hell, you can make the case that Drake London is a top 8 or better fantasy football wide receiver in PPR leagues when it is all said and done. Once again, he has it all. He has the new OC. He has the quarterback. Now it's time to see if he can put it all together and finally live up to his draft capital. Number 2, Ladd McConkey. I'm not a big-time rookie guy, right? Like, you look all over the fantasy space, people plant their flags on rookies pre-draft. I'm not one of those guys. I need to see a landing spot before I plant my flag. Ladd McConkey, you can make the case, was the best landing spot for any fantasy football wide receiver. Now, I get it. A lot of people are saying, well, Greg Roman, he loves to run the football. With what running backs, right? What running backs do they really have with the Chargers at this point, right? Like Gus Edwards, really the bell cow. We really going to get that Ravens rushing attack led by Lamar Jackson in the Greg Roman system? Come on. They have a big arm quarterback in Justin Herbert who knows and wants to throw the football. So, no, they're not going to throw big-time volume, but somebody's got to get those targets. And if you look at the other pass catchers in this offense, Hayden Hurst, our guy here at the Faceoff Sports Network, the Mental Health Podathon, he hasn't exactly lit up in fantasy football. Palmer, I think they brought in Chark. Quentin Johnston looks like, I'll say he looks like a bust after one season. Ladd McConkey should and could have every single opportunity to cash in for his fantasy managers. And guess what? Ladd McConkey, ADP, 68.9. A lot of people are different. A lot of people like to punt running back. I have quite a few builds, because I like, guys like Kelsey, you can get him to 3rd round. And if you want that Mahomes stack, and maybe you start running back, and all of a sudden you're looking, the good wide receivers are gone. Then your next 2 rounds, maybe you George Pickens, and you're coming back, you get Ladd McConkey. All of a sudden, got a lot of opportunity in this wide receiver room. So Ladd McConkey, whether you punt receiver and you're looking for some potential volume guys in the mid rounds, or if you have a nice solid wide receiver core, maybe you have 2 guys, you want a nice high volume 3rd, Ladd McConkey's your guy. I absolutely love what he could potentially bring to the table. I love the fact that they have a lot of guys in this wide receiver room, but they're just guys. They're a bunch of, I don't even want to call them 2s. Maybe they're a bunch of 3s, and Ladd McConkey could emerge as the guy. Outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe Ladd McConkey will lead all rookies at the wide receiver position. And I'm not saying he's going to outperform Marvin. I'm saying outside of Marvin. Marvin should be the guy. Who's going to finish number 2? I don't love the situation for Neighbors with the Giants and Daniel Jones. I hate it. Get him out of here. Let other people pay that cost. you can go get Ladd McConkey, who has arguably similar upside as Malik Neighbors. Not talent-wise, Neighbors great. If Neighbors was with the Chargers, we'd be drafting him maybe with Harrison, but that's not the case. Situation and quarterback being everything. Go ask Drake London. Ladd McConkey, trying to leave every draft with them. Number 3, let's close it up. Mike Williams. And Mike Williams, we know the deal with Mike Williams. Injuries. Well, years past, you had to pay a decent premium for Mike Williams. That's not the case anymore. 107.6 ADP. This is a player in Mike Williams who was a former number 7 overall pick. This is a player, Mike Williams, who in each of the past 3 seasons, 2021, wide receiver 13 fantasy points per game. 2022, wide receiver 20 fantasy points per game. Last season, he was hurt after 3 games, but he averaged 16.7 fantasy points per game, which was the highest fantasy points per game of his career. In fact, it was higher than 2022, where he was wide receiver 20 in that category. It was higher than 2021, where it was the wide receiver 13 in that category. Mike Williams can play. The issue with Mike Williams is he can't stay on the field. We're getting him at a massive discount. And guess what? With the New York Jets, Mike Williams in a very similar situation, because with the Chargers, he had Keenan Allen taking that coverage 9 times out of 10. Now he's going to have Garrett Wilson taking that coverage 9 times out of 10. And as far as quarterback, it's all Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, then, we're kind of flushing his pick down a toilet. But this isn't a 4th-round pick for Mike Williams. This isn't a 5th-round pick for Mike Williams. This is probably right around a 10th-round pick, maybe 9 if you're reaching, for Mike Williams. So it hurts less if his quarterback gets hurt. But I think Aaron Rodgers on a mission. I think Aaron Rodgers plays, because I'm sure as hell targeting Aaron Rodgers supporting cast everywhere, doubling down on my takes from last year. And Mike Williams, I think he can have a big-time year with Aaron Rodgers throwing him that football deep, and with a lot of that attention going to Brees and going to Garrett Wilson. I'm taking my shots on Mike Williams. I get it's risky, but again, is it really that risky when he's going after the 100th pick in most best ball drafts? And you can even make he's going, round 9 or 10 in most drafts outside of Dynasty. Go draft Mike Williams, because at that point, he has a lot of upside. And, oh, by the way, he's been there, done that. Once again, wide receiver 13 fantasy points per game, wide receiver 20 in fantasy points per game 2 years ago. And last season, career high 16.7 fantasy points per game in only 3 games, but before going down to injury. So this guy has something left. And just in case you're worried about Aaron, because I am too, there's no longer Tim Boyle or Zach Wilson. The Jets actually did a wise thing and brought in a more capable backup quarterback, one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL, and Tyrod Taylor. I feel a hell of a lot more comfortable drafting Jets pass-catching assets, knowing that there's no more Zach Wilson, that Tyrod can do it. We know he can do it because he's been around for a while. We've seen him do it as a starter and a backup. I'm Anthony Servino. This is the Faceoff Sports Network. We'll see you later.